ABBA 1. October 27, 2018. Questions and answers. ABBA, at the heart of each, greets your presence and your joy. Before you start to hear or listen to their questions, or testimony, let us settle in each of us, in the presence and evidence of peace, on the evidence and the presence of love. Silence. So in this state, so present and so intense, each placed in the heart of the heart, evidence of life, welcomes and receives what it is. One beloved children, it's time to share and exchange. Truth in the moment through your person, you expressed in the need to express, the need to testify, the need to show the evidence that exists within. Beloved, now is the time to let those who have something to say and express themselves manifest. Silence. Who wants to talk? Who you mean? Who wants to ask? Silence. I invite you, everyone here, let everything that comes to you, whether stories, testimonials, questions or simply report their presence at this moment. Silence. Remember, this is not for you, not for me, but you do it to bear witness to your presence. In whatever state you are, in whatever state is present, the reception of each ABBA that's made it possible to speak and express joy and lightness. I can only let you express what must manifest and appear in its assembly. Each of you is ABBA, beyond belief, and beyond any assumptions, even if you think unknown, even if it seems unreasonable or impossible. However, there is only truth that lets you to be coupled with non-being, before creation, before the demonstration. Whatever your story, whatever your questions ultimately are just for you. In our exchanges, from now on, it does not try to explain, but to live. Words and sentences are only carriers of the evidence supports joy and love. Therefore, I can only encourage you to not restrict anything to touch the screen of your perception and your experience at this time. Silence. Who decides to let the first question, or the first testimony coming from their lips? Voice. There is a question that is being prepared. Participant. I'm Jean, and in my heart that I'm here. Voice. Should I repeat? No. Beloved, be there, here or elsewhere, but remain available. It is the first step towards this permanent host. Because by giving host to host more than history, for your availability, you become more available, you become more receptive, beyond any sense, as any perception. From this apparent silence, which comes to fill you with the elegance of grace and evidence of joy, from the time when, as you say, you're there, installed on the host. Light, beyond the precepts and called, he will call increasingly live this silence favorable to your presence as your absence, where you feel I am eternal, beyond perception, by the evidence of the same consciousness for serenity and peace. Be there, as you say, be available, beyond any usefulness or sense, gives you the opportunity to live the ultimate direction of your way, showing evidence, not what you've come, or what you have to go, but understanding, with all its importance, the road is just life, and that this path does not depend on any step of any foot, not even a look. Because love is the way you do not need, in the eternal, movement, shape, story or scenario, or even time. There is a source of satisfaction, where you will never be thirsty again, where concrete and truly will remain within your being enduring the world, this freedom and this lightness. If you take the habit of being there, available to you, without request, no ideas, no thoughts, without being out of this world, without trying to escape any condition, just be available at the present moment, this moment, it will light up more and more for each of you, by a laugh or an explosion of joy, translating the ineffable, through this character. Be there, here or anywhere else, is to be available, not for oneself or for another, or for any world, but just for truth, which does not depend on any world and that is before the world, and that will remain even when the worlds had passed. It is saying I am here, that being and non-being are merged in the same light and the same lightness. It will be easier to assimilate and understand, as long as you live, everything flows from there. From this opening particular I have called to host, which requires, of course, be placed in the present moment, so this present moment remove any reference and any past, like any projection on any outcome. Therefore, it is in your availability every minute staying there, the ineffable is done, from the time you do not ask anything, from the moment that not taking anything, from the moment where the host becomes available, presence and absence, joy and silence, all in the same place in the same space. So, as I have said, as the chaos of the world progresses, joy grows. It has often been said to you, fear or love often told you no choice but to love. The circumstances of this world will bring under some circumstances, whether personal, collective, family, professional, social, led you to find what you were before the truth. As has been said, everything is in the right place. Not to make your life easier, but to facilitate the emergence of life. In this, it is enough to stay there. Without demand, no waiting, no ulterior motive and intent. This is the total availability of your body and your mind, and your presence. And from this total availability, at that moment and another moment, the emergence, the birth and blossoming of joy occurs. They have taken into account many time frames. Often they should meet at a given time, either you like it all, as in every interaction in life on this planet. We must move the actor to the spectator, the catalyst, that it is there, without expecting anything, without asking anything, which magnifies thus their presence, and will allow each of them to know the unspeakable truth that not up to you at all, and it does not depend on any world, no future, no event of this world. Because these are the events of your life, personal, who are at the level of society, interactions, absolutely everything is orchestrated by the intelligence of the light, for direct to your availability, your presence and your host to behave. No need any reference, support, or even no understanding. Ultimately, it is a posture of consciousness that eventually ceases its projection, reactions, because it is directed towards his own emptiness, the silence by staying there, and the desk going in every possible way, from the brutal to the most delicate to lead you to that. The hardest thing, I repeat, is to accept that there is nothing to do about it, and you just have to give the host, remain available in truth. Around the world, including free, three-dimensional, even without predation, there is always this notion of causality, logical chain, interaction of consciousness. What it offers is much more than that. It directly through all these worlds of manifestation, creation, all these stories related to time and space, through this with growing evidence not to be stopped, breaking or obtained by any element of the story of your person, or any element of the story of your consciousness. Because that's how you discover yourself in what you are, beyond consciousness and prior to that. Whose testimony, you know, for countless months to many brothers and sisters among us, is the serenity, peace and joy. They are becoming ever more numerous, extensive or lighter way to realize that even if there is no joy, yet constantly, there are these moments and these moments, whatever be their occupations, whatever their alignments, which, little by little, closer, say, this flash of lucidity, where time no longer exists, where space and forms cannot exist, where it remains only evidence of who you are. Silence. As you know, the veils have been removed, either the level of the macrocosm or individual. So far, the weight of habits and conditionings, taken in this world remained. Today, even that represents only the possibility of concealment of truth, from the moment they do not seek the truth, but simply the truth of who they are, beyond any assumption. All thought, all energy and vibration. I thank you for saying you are here. Because being there is essential, not because I speak, not because it is here, but because you're there, and that in silence, utter this simple prayer that reflects your availability. Everything flows from here on. Somehow, this back and forth between the ephemeral and the eternal, it takes more and more space, time, in the heart of the world itself, the whole truth is made, the eternal joy. As you can see, staying there cannot be accompanied by any spiritual level, personal or projection. It is this present instant intensity, the intensity of your presence, causing fusion, in a way, being and non-being. And that cannot deceive you, because you just have to look at your life in your happy and unhappy things, to see that this does not change anything in your presence, staying there. I would even say that happy or unfortunate circumstances of your life, right now, are just for that, to make you rediscover that beyond identity throughout the world, are just pure intelligence, because you've been working on building workshops, for time immemorial, and today is the end of your trip. Time, pilgrim of eternity, has come to give you back all your burdens without exception. Not to any external authority, but to the truth of light, with nothing, expecting nothing, because it happens in the moment and not after some delay or some time. The immediacy of light is such that from now you could say that everything is a sign. Even if certain events or elements of your life you seem diametrically opposed to be a sign, I can assure you that everything within you as a person, ephemeral, speaks on, only you, but not you. Not in the history of the person. Today, even the person leads you to the inevitability of light. Because light is a fatality. Cannot it be a different way? As you know, there are countless signs at all levels within this sphere of life that is Earth, and in its own sphere of manifestation. In the temporal level of this world, the emergence and progression of intelligence of light has implemented a few days ago, the MERBAC, the vehicle individual ascension. This may have called in recent days, as in the days ahead, a gleaming forms of abrupt changes, ideas that happen that do not come from you, strictly speaking, because it is not a choice, a desire or reflection, but, again, evidence that is imposed. This evidence can be enumerable, because they concern your ephemeral, in any situation. So really they're from the power of individual and collective MERBAC, but this time, what I would call, no pun intended, a burning, a new possibility. This new possibility is simply the staying there, available, allows these impulses reach you. Light pulses are directed to you directly, and not simply by vibration, by the mechanisms of ecstasy, alignment, joy, but also driving directly through your person, a certain number of elements. You can detect this very quickly, if you have not already done so. You could call this, as a person, a crazy idea, which is not logical, manifested in you despite this absurd side as evidence. This can absolutely affect all areas of your life. I can only advise you at that time, not ask what happens, or choose nothing but to see what will happen directly to you beyond the mind's perception of your presence, because the impulses of light become somehow, I say, coordinated by your plasticity in this world with this story and your story. Eruptions of light. From now on, these impulses are not requirements as before, not even chance of experiencing the multidimensionality of consciousness, but even here, in your character, within this body, experiment and guide direct light. This guide is not in the form of a vision, nor is it a form of choice. It is not a choice. It is not a decision. It is something that is obvious and you should go. And, if you follow it and really comes from the momentum of light, then only you observe a feeling of greater brightness, a sense of greater inner freedom. This game is very easy. Just observe, beyond energy, vibration, just with this phrase, how do I feel about this idea? And you will get the result instantly. It's not like it was a few years ago with the heart response, but the response of light. This also means that each of you, in any state, age or situation, because, I repeat, are only a few days. But this process will develop more and more. This will help you be real and specifically life instead of your life. The feeling of freedom and liberty impression is very real, because they result in a form of relaxation. This relaxation concerns the body, emotions, thoughts, suffering, mind, every aspect of your life. What I am announcing to you here is the direct impact of light on the development of his life, and even say, regardless of their wishes, their desires or their oppositions. That is, in this space of time it has been open to you, under any circumstances, depends on you see, perceive, what is your mood, what is your state. You have this idea, this urge has happened, or this event has happened, whatever its hardness, and comprehension, looking away from the event, but look inside yourself. How do you feel, how you perceive? They are available for the light, for some of you since many lifetimes. Has called the light has been revealed, and for many of you. Begin even without perceiving it in a different way, or even being able to formulate it perfectly. Begin to live, everyone, without exception, at your own pace and on their way, the mechanisms of these light pulses that are no longer mandate strict or calls, but merely translate into light that are, through this character who believe they're acting, I would say, without your knowledge, without knowledge of his will, unaware of their desires. To accept this anyway, will give you the opportunity to live this immediate lightness and intensity of joy. Then, it is a matter of behavior, a matter of perception, but no energy or vibration, but to define honestly, how do I feel? Not according to my wallet, nor agree with the love of my partner, my wife, my family or my profession, but simply there. When put yourself in this way, you're at the reception and availability, you're there. Unfortunately, one can only note that the social organization, such as the organization of the Earth, experiencing a number of transmutations. A few months ago, I told them that from now on the balance of forces and the presence of consciousness, not just yours, those of Earth but of all creation, taking place on Earth. So that everyone in harmony, not by will, not even by any event, whatever it is ordered by itself. So intelligence and intelligence light of life, but today with an octave, I would say, perhaps, denser and more present, which is just yours to realize what they are, for resistance finally, recent misunderstandings, the last doubts, cannot appear before the naked truth. Joy has been mentioned should not be confused with something else. You cannot be deceived or deceive yourself. But it depends on your freedom of choice to live that or not. It requires no effort, It requires perseverance, but only your welcome and your availability. From now on, the evidence will break out in the consciousness of increasingly brothers. This is also what is created by the dance of the elements that you see from everywhere. As we have always said, leaving the balance and chaos, you're in joy. From the moment we do not participate in chaos in any way, because you take the habit, this is very good, watch yourself above all, through your person. That place has been called heart of the heart, last presence or infinite presence does not matter. The essential thing is to be there. And the more you're quiet, in peace, acceptance, you can find more through anything, any event, any inconvenience, with the same state, the same perception. What also mean by that, finally, before you return to express, it is that, whatever you do, the intelligence of the light will come to the end. Progression of light has been accompanied by the elders, the peoples of nature, for many years. Light henceforth no longer extends over the entire earth, but more directly, I would say that all of the light hereinafter, each of you, is consuming the last insulating layer of your body. At heart level. This is called the opening of the precardium. But it's not just an opening, it's its disappearance. The elevation of the heart within the chest cavity had been reported. This raising of the heart within the chest by various cardiac irregularities, palpitations or other chest compressions, of course may have manifested. Heart ascension took place. Now allows the complete dissolution of the precardium. You cannot ignore the fact that the release phase is completed. But you see that some elements of this world are still there, they're just suspended. This postponement will only last as long as you're feeding this. It is in this sense that the momentum of light from now on, the intelligence of the light, make it really be this intelligence of light. All the circumstances of their lives, without exception, the happiest and the most detestable, since these days are only there to get, even against the will of the person, in his fairer place to live event. The event, you know, is already happening. He is well known, is perfectly present, but simply say that has not yet been recorded, even in denial, rejection, or anger, for all mankind. All elements taking place on social, climatic, geophysical, cosmic, can leave no doubt about what is happening. And from the moment that you are not eager to any date, then at that time, your availability becomes full. Do not worry about what your person can say about any obligation. Because the momentum and intelligence of light from now, will resolve it for you. This is not an illusion. So far, always it has been told to take care of your body, your vehicle. It is always true. But you find more and more that the real intelligence specifically took over, beyond the vibratory mechanisms, beyond the heart response process, and in some circumstances of your life. Again, even the most unpleasant, just it frees you from what it should be. What I mean by this is that the more days and weeks accumulate, the easier it becomes for the light and becomes more complicated for the person. And in this last phase of alchemy, both being and non-being is there. Both the person and the ephemeral, and eternity. Eternity takes the whole place, it covers everything, and from now on, what you understand, your heart, especially at the level of the organ called the precardium. I will not return to the different possible perceptions of vibration and energy, because they are only accessories that come with this, but you do not need your understanding, and your observation. Just stays there. So your point of view changes, not an effort, but precisely because of the intelligence of the light who works in you. And not just in the doors, not only in multidimensionality, not only in what has been called bare awareness, but directly within the non-being. So I know that often Bida told you about the consciousness of Chiriyad, what happens when you sleep every night, but the light does not want to sleep, he woke you. This particular vigilance does not depend on you, but a surveillance by the momentum of light takes them all, without exception, to reconsider some elements of his life. Sometimes you may seem, as I said, absurd. But if you reread the scale of your inner feeling, what triggers this crazy idea, this situation or this suffering, no matter, you will discover that puts you in joy. It is not a denial, not a flight, but through, and even say now, a transcendence of matter. It is no longer just a transubstantiation, is not only the body of eternity doubling you, but the heart of the heart directly. The heart of the heart is not a concept or just one point placed in the center of your chest, but is the heart of your being. It is where it all comes from and where everything returns. And many, through different perceptions or sensations experience chest to start living. because it is even cardiac irregularities, because it is for spear jips or deceleration, because it is by the flow of the heart or the presence of the black hole, or dance 4 beats in the times of the heart, but it does not matter now because you are more or less easily conscious, but with increasing evidence that it is not your head that directs, real and concrete way, but your heart. Not as a concept but as an action such as energy, like a vibration in the heart of the world itself. Everything that belongs to the person, even in habits, begins to move away from you. And besides, some of you realize that, stupor, have lost their habits, have lost automation's body and personality. The change is much more than the change because it is the ascension and liberation. They are accessible to more and more brothers and sisters, even if they have no knowledge, no feelings, no doubt aware that something is happening in the heart. This changes everything. In his life, in their view, their way of life. All this contributes in every possible way to the realization of the illusion. This is now at every moment, every minute, every day, is the correct day to live it, to make it happen. Everything else without exception, will they yourselves. Intergalactic confederation of free worlds are innumerable, even better to see them, to feel them. Obviously, the truth cannot be kept under the bushel, and that is the intelligence of the light, that no longer works alone in this world, but in all, more and more extensive, increasingly present. As soon as there is a change of any level happens in you, you can be safe and will verify for yourself, it is only the intelligence of the light you are, beyond any scenario from any history, held in you. From there, of course, the progression of eternity will become more amazing in every way again. As I said and I repeat, everything happens spontaneously and automatically. Sole responsibility, if I may say, is to be available and there. The commentator had said put love ahead. Recently, I would have said put the superconsciousness before. Today, I cannot say because you're everywhere. I mean that the expansion phase and ascension has been activated and, I repeat, it is now. Not only see the event itself, but I tell you, and you'll see, is not an event, the famous collective event, but a multitude of events arriving at the same time, combining its progress, its manifestation, to this zero time, which is the time of ecstasy or both planetary grid. In a way, the intelligence of the light drives you everywhere, so you're free and alive. These the greatest moments availability, and these moments, these days, more clarity, and it has also been said many times that at some point the light would occupy all the space and all the time. Not only is joy, is not only love, but also that complete disappearance of all illusions, of any nature whatsoever. Illusions in certain relationships, society illusions, countries, everything has been considered firm and final in this world, no longer exists. The only certainty has been transferred to what you are, and you see it every day, in every event for which have to happen in one day. The more you stay calmer, you commit not understand anything, more will be available and will be freer. And this freedom, of course, impacts the body, whatever your age, whatever the previous state. From the moment you are free now, and if time leaves the room, you can only see and you flow through it. Even beyond the joy in your face, the same physiology of your body is changing meat at all levels, and this is remarkable. It is no longer something subtle, as there are even biological markers, at all levels, in all organs of your body, this transubstantiation. Everything that resists or suffering you and your life, requires no explanation or justification for it. But right there, too, to be there, fully present, welcoming. There is real humility in relation to the life that are hereafter. And I repeat firmly, every day you can only see and live in an increasingly intense way. Certainly, there may be again in this mechanism of intelligence of the light that takes action in the matter and ephemeral consciousness, there may be fluctuations, some adjustment shocks. But you see, and as you can already see, whether of thoughts, moods, emotions, wounds, memories or body, you cannot stay. This is also happening. From the point of view of the person, the intelligence of the light that works in the depths of you in each of your cells as each fragment of your consciousness, knows what to do. Remember that creation was a program and not something that should be perfect, because perfection is prior to creation. Today, during these collective events that take place on earth as in heaven, while the intergalactic confederation of free worlds manifests itself increasingly clearly, the manifestation of eternity through this ephemeral also it becomes increasingly more evident. And I would say that if we do not live, or you do not care, anyway, you live anyway. It is in this sense is that you do not need external authority and you have much more to share from now on. That is, as has been done, testify report. That report is not only to tell a story, not a state, but embody the word, what you really are. You will be told, the word what does. Among the oldest known vibrations, doors and stars, and new bodies, I will make an aside. This apart is as follows. Many have experienced the activation of new bodies, doors, stars, the alchemical processes that led to the ascensional heart crown, the fusion of Marian channel with the heart, the rise of the wave of life, the ascension crowns. Well, for you who live and feel the vibrations, you can only notice a lightness that increases every day or, if not otherwise. And for those who live and have lived vibrations released by the wave of life, or the fusion of Marian channel with the heart, have nothing to do in particular if not remain available. But not available for vibration, nor for vision, but remain available for silence and emptiness, which is not exactly the same. And, if you have not already done so, you will notice that the mechanism of crystal fountain that had evoked many years and established itself as a source of a fusion at the top of the head, above the head, you are now in your heart. This means something very simple. Simply it means not only active communication between the head and the heart, but also that fusion of head and body is recorded. This results in the perception of two crowns on their heads, animated by particular movements. But above all, it creates a particular state of joy. It is a joy that sometimes becomes a form of silence, a form of emptiness, a form of joy, in the disappearance of the person, thoughts, emotions. This interior and silent joy will demonstrate this alchemy of light and this impulse of intelligence of light from your heart. It is in this sense is that you are really aware of all life in all its dimensions, with all these entities, they can only be in you. And this is really and concretely lives. Because in love, you know, there is no distance, no individual. The individual merges with love, it fuses with the love and worlds merge with love. It is not an image but the strict truth. So from the latter days, and those who remain, we must let this happen. Remember that the life that you always know better what is best for you, much more than the reflection element smaller than the smallest diagnosis in your body, in the world or in a relationship. Which also means that, as an individual, is the end of the dream of individuality, the dream of believing himself in a way, or a world, whatever. This far exceeds the notion of worlds locked or free worlds. Simply go beyond the notion of the world, the notion of form, the notion of time, the notion of space. There is happiness, true, there is no other. And you cannot be deceived. The most delicate, but not difficult, but delicate, for many of you, it is to accept, for their availability. Use yourself, your thoughts, but later. In the same way you put the love front, back, top, bottom, right, in the same way that is emerged joy, let it be what is there. Then you will see that your mere presence, no matter how quiet it is, in any environment, not only in so-called privileged environments, emanate. Life for many of you take a magical side. And even if there are drawbacks, either the form of suffering or difficulties in the course of life in its fleeting, they will find that the source of glass have fallen into your heart, permanently emanate whatever is necessary. A new layer, a new level of needs appear, for many of you. Not strictly speaking, a disinterest in this world, but simply say a much greater interest in the truth that is there. Because nothing can compare with her and nothing can approach it. Thus ends the phase oath and promise. Thus ends the waiting phase. Thus ends not only the notion of search, I think at this level, has cleared and pruned, but rather, to convince them so experienced, you're just prior to everyone, as all the conflict, as all joy of this world pure light. And this intensity decreases illusion, without any effort on your part, individually and collectively. In other words, all that remains is to follow what has been called the fluidity of the unit, or if you prefer the lines of least resistance, if not cause any reflection or the slightest reflection. The more you go in the direction of the evidence of fluency, the more conspicuous. The more you resist, even unconsciously, even without any responsibility, just by habit, the more you catch the light, hard and crash. Everything is automatic, everything is spontaneous, everything is natural. Because the true nature is there, not anywhere else, despite certain appearance and any history. Therefore, no hidden will, of course, you have at your disposal countless ways to stay there, if available, as is right now, at any regular activity. Only depends on you not to be guided by the person, the problems, pains, but to transcend all this. Or even say, that transcends itself. If you accept this principle, the same mechanism of lived experience, you'll only see extremely fast effects and changes in relation to what you think is, in history, in what still live in this world, because you are in truth. This process, as I said, is collective. It does not concern a few calls, some elected, concerns the whole of life and not just on Earth. But this is happening on Earth. This is for all creation. And the most advanced scientific observatories know this. And before long, this can be an hour or a little more, this truth will be accessible to all by his own experience, regardless of anything, beliefs, opposition or denial. Even if for this, some of you, with this individual and collective event, must go through stages called the clash of humanity. But unlike the elapsed time, of what he had said the beloved Jean, all this happened at the same time and no longer in a sequential order, which really what brings the many, towards a form of sideration, not as life, as the mechanisms of pre-rapture, but rather from the sideration of consciousness. This sideration of consciousness concerns all the fragments of your consciousness. This is not, strictly speaking, numbness pre-pre, as was the case with many of the beginning of 2018, but here, greater internal evidence. And not only of joy. He's not only what might be called love, it is true, but there also simply be called evidence. You're the alive and, above all, are the source of light as the source of all forms. Greater freedom arises from this, the greater aliveness, more easily. I'm telling you and I repeat, it is the intelligence of the light work. And from now on you will see the corollary of this, especially for those who are in what they say or call spirituality, and believe action. The more you want to do more you keep far you light. The more you embrace, the closer you have light. This will have no exception. This contrasts even more between you and those who had the opportunity a few months ago, the opportunity to travel to other dimensions within the archetypes, as in the ether. Ether, I told you, is now in the middle of your chest. Spring sprouting does not come from anywhere else but you. You're the source of all worlds, you're the source of light, you are prior to creation. It is no longer a concept or a philosophical principle to accept, but it becomes an experience. This experience will become, as I said, more percussive, increasingly powerful. I can only encourage you, beyond enlightenment takes place, beyond the changes induced by the intelligence of the light, so that you stick as possible to your humanity, your fallibility within this body of flesh. Of course, not to identify you again, but to allow the intelligence of the light does not omit anything. It was also called some time ago, sacrifice. At all times, this voice has been presented to other voices, for this notion of sacrifice and subsequent resurrection. Only you can see, at least for a growing number of us, the resurrection took place before slaughter. Resurrection has brought you to the abode of supreme peace, and beyond, to live the joy, in any expression whatsoever. Today it is more than that, it is the culmination of that. That is, the intelligence of the light you no longer need, at all, as a person. That's why you need to be present densely and intensely present. And I am talking about the most mundane and ordinary events in your life. Arguably the contrary, do everything consciously, pay attention, do everything lucidly. But this would still be an effort. Because it is not you who decides. It is the intelligence of the light that is done. Beloveds, after this rather long answer, we will hear the following questions or testimony, or what they have to say, between you. If, however, everyone is not yet asleep. Voice. There is a question. A written question. Participant. This is not a testimony, it is information that is given to all. In this place, my little fellow is in total confidence and know you can give up all control. This results in the animation of this vehicle of life. This does not translate. No image, no words, but only by movements in space or on paper. This way of being is quite normal for me, no matter how outlandish or bizarre that sometimes may seem. Thank you all for making no questions about it. Laughter. Thanks, laughter. I appreciate this information, can only say the opposite, in fact, what I just said formally, sorry. Laughs. This is actually a prayer. But you know, they have to repeat the very long sentence. Reissue. Addresses in the same sentence with different versions. Clear. Those of you who already live, may suspect, they do not need my explanations, neither my words, live it. But those who still do not live as long as they are warned, somewhere. Voice. There is another question arises. Participant. I would like to know why the live does not want to sleep. Laughter. Voice. Our sister would like to know why light does not want to sleep. There are times when it is necessary to overcome the unconscious resistance. Some of you, in fact, sleep a lot, and others of you, whatever the cause is, do not sleep. But who told you that the intelligence of the light needed sleep? Laughter. Changes mentioned, physiological, anatomical, cellular, are quite tangible and real. The person needs to sleep, the person needs to eat, the person has basic needs. The person must meet the obligations of the law of society. The person needs to sleep, but what is the truth must wake up. There is no better way for the intelligence of the light to work on you, get to exhaustion of certain resistance or depletion of certain habits. Sleep is a must for the person, but also a collective habit. It's the same, and this has been mentioned many times, food. There are customs and habits that affect the whole earth. It has become physiological needs. But it is not physiological need that has induced the habit, it is a habit that has induced the need. It is a form of adaptation. Today, you live a completely inverted person adaptation. Not sleep at this time, whatever the cause, it is a call to this surveillance and the host. No more, and he said, punishment or call to order. This is no longer necessary, because the light is there. Just log in, fully recognize, in all possible ways. Not for you, but the body is a great tool for this. And called neurocircadians or circadian rhythms, the rhythms finally has, either the day in a month in a menstrual cycle, for example, for a lady, all this is changed. Habits your body, your behavior, escape. You used to sleep. In agreement. So you do not sleep. Laughter, you used to take refuge in a dream. You cannot go anywhere. It is also a way to learn from the different physiology of the body. Also part of the set of reference points that are needed in a dual world, which eliminated one after another. And remember what the person might call a great void or great suffering, it is only the anteroom of joy. Intelligence light wakes you. Because of course, when I speak of oaths and promise, obviously you can only awaken what is already present. I wake him up. Intelligence of light that you're being awakened, even through this body, from the heart of the heart, through the crystal fountain that has descended to the heart, you can live it in all possible ways. The same participant. Can I give a detail? With pleasure. The same participant. Actually, it's just a vibratory phenomenon that occurs in a very violent, or any way that happens way and I wake up. There you are, it's at this time. Beloved, do you mean that the vibration itself prevents you from sleeping? If I understood correctly. But it is part of the vibration of the interface between the ephemeral and the eternal. Consciousness is vibration. You are prior to consciousness. And then, here too, there is a phenomenon of depletion of your consciousness, as depletion of the mind or body, in some cases, which is desirable for the intelligence of light, to make you discover and live. Truth of what is prior to vibration, you, before consciousness. You see everything in different ways and, for the moment, with different intensities. Many habits, whatever they are suffocated by the intelligence of the light and not because of them. So this is also a very different level than has been opened. And this is where you must remember, in this connection, I do not speak concerning your life or your obligations, but in relation to your life to become life, either through what is at stake, even painful, the chemistry will be completed. I can only encourage you to ask why, or even how. Because what comes from inside you. I could ask you the intelligence of light, either vibration or fire, or any other symptoms that prevent you from sleeping. Immerse yourself deeper into this great vacuum, in this great silence. Light intelligence is such, in action and in its manifestation through this body of flesh, you'll see the effects of it more and more clearly. In your body, of course, your own physiological rhythms that are called essentially hunger, thirst, sleep and thermoregulation. Countless those who have noticed changes, fluctuations in temperature regulation, appetite, sleep, including perspiration, physiological changes in eurythmy organs, lungs, heart. This is all part of the same alchemy of liberation. Intelligence of light, therefore, works it all and not just the interface vibrational consciousness. From the moment for you, in this case, from the moment you give vibration welcome and go through it, then the dream is there. Also this famous phrase that is repeated countless times: watch and pray. Evolution observed for those who live the ascension process since early this year. In the first quarter, there were calls mandates of light that put him in a state of pre-pre. A few months later, the process of releasing the primary abnormality released a number of elements. Spontaneous joy has appeared in countless brothers and sisters, without explanation. And it is precisely this openness of heart to vibration, the infinite presence, the heart of the heart, enabling life you are nothing of what happens and what happens, even in the collective event that is yet to be lived. Because you're all that before. There too, I do not ask you to believe me because you are going or already are experiencing. I'm just asking you to see for yourself. This does not prevent you, beyond what I just said, if you're really embarrassed, is to use appropriate means to sleep. You meet. But if the life that wants to wake up, your dream will be shortened anyway. You live for sleep. It is the same for all functions called central regulation. Let's continue. Voice. It seems that the video has been blocked. It is not serious. We can continue. Voice. There comes a question. Participant. Yes. So I'll talk a little loud. Exactly, it was just to say my heart sneezes much, with joy, without any reason. Here, right now, and I'm here, I feel very good, we can say happy to be here in the middle of all my brothers and sisters who apparently also sneezes with joy, like me. Why? Laughter, and that's all. It was just what he meant. I thank you. It's the first day and the first intervention. Sticking to that, within 2 days there will be a laugh, as you've heard in the last withdrawal. And that's normal. Because life and creation is a great burst of laughter, because it has no substance, and still had to go, so we had to appear, because even beyond the creative geneticists' mothers who are also boosting the creation had come from somewhere. See oneself, experienced oneself. But today, as you know, rewinding the film only shows that it has in all without exception, have traveled all frames of creation, without exception. However, we had to find the meaning of history. However, it was necessary to find a certain number of elements juxtaposed with his conscience, which awakened, turned certain things, to make them converge in countless temporal and spatial frames of consciences earth from all creation, to resonate on the myth of creation and the story of creation. This is how the film is rewound, the alpha omega joins and joins omega alpha. So yes, even silently, smile and laughter are there. From the time when, as you said before, you feel confident, you abandon yourself and then you open. Nothing can remain locked. And lucid know not what I speak, I know lucid because you're there, simply. In fact, our brother with your first question, saying he was there, did the last question. Are you there? Are you there? You cannot get elsewhere. Just believe. You cannot take away. Simply believed it. The time has come, as they say our brothers and sisters Oriental, out of sleep, Maya, illusion. But you can never leave the illusion of a personal decision. Time frames, as you know, join, without exception. Not only on Earth, but also dimensional frames. It is the resolution, I repeat, the myth of creation. You're above all myth, you're before creation in all forms. But this cannot be an object of faith or belief. It can only be a lived experience. Because only in the experience you accept it as the only truth. But do not forget that the structure of your character, the history of this world as the history of all creations, does not know. And it is on Earth that you recognize and that you live, increasingly blatant, for an increasing number of brothers and sisters. In the action of the intelligence of the light, which is spontaneous and automatic, I mean that when you accept it and live there in you a sense of joy, of course, but also the integrity and totality, flowing directly from She. Lived in this process, there cannot be any analysis or less understanding, interpretation or lower. He has lived, or has not lived still. Silence. Continue, if we have time. Voice. They are about a quarter of an hour. So is there any other oral question? Voice. It seems not, for the moment. Voice. Yes, one more question. Participant. I have a small question only. What is palpitating here, above the heart? This throbs, like the heart. Beloveds, the heart has been physically raised, it has moved, real and specifically in the chest. On the other hand, I remind you that on the heart, as you say, there are a number of structures and in particular what is called the ninth body or body radiant with the divine, which is in above the heart chakra and below the throat chakra, just at the corner of Louis the manubrain. What throbs at this level is, therefore, a body, but also a door. Many of you have perceived these phenomena palpitations, vibration or movement on several doors' trunk. The process that takes place there is the logical conclusion of the physical ascension of the heart and the dissolution of the precardium. This is reflected, in fact, by a pulse vibration phenomenon, sometimes trembling, located on the heart. This scenario reflects the phenomenal level of activity here in this world, this radiance of the divine. It was expressed many months ago, your eyes, for your presence, to smile at what you see and the world will smile to you. Today, the source of glass throughout the ribcage, this radiation will become perpetual. That's what you are. Signs of heart, and set to them, whether palpitations, acceleration or deceleration, extrasystole, as you call it, but also all the processes of perception within the rib cage, refer them to the action of intelligence of light, and it is not outside, but directly within this ephemeral body. Also might find that when you go beyond the question of why, feel that and you merge into this, you can only laugh and smile. You can only agree with the truth, which is not a truth that can be bliss, but simply can experience in the privacy of your heart. This is what happens. The alchemy of head and heart, as I have stated, the arrival of the crystal fountain, as emanating light and absorption as a black hole of all creation, running synchronously. In fact, it is a double terrace. This double terrace gives all kinds of perceptions within the chest. But beyond perception, analysis or understanding, especially the translation, exists at the level of self, in ordinary life, that suits you verify and check. What I said today, in this first interview, it is, above all, that the action of light is not alone in this world, in all creation, but now or more intimately. In your body, and in the innermost center of the earth. This will become an increasing number every day, more and more blatant, so that the process, in fact, become increasingly blatant, and refers to all consciousness of the planet, not just humans. Intergalactic confederation of free worlds, present en masse and even visibly at the level of the skies, just wait one thing. This is the time to reveal the truth in its entirety. And everything can be done only in accordance with the intelligence of light. In addition, it is she who decides there too. And the more you're there, staying there, available to you, the more the conflagration, individual and collective will approach. In fact, I think I'll stand. If you feel impatient, if you are looking for a date, if you want to wait for the event, remember that a coach is the longer you stay there, the more will be available, the more you'll agree not to nothing at the level of spirit for yourself, the closer you are. Because, I conclude with these words, it is extremely difficult in this world to believe that everything is done through the operation of the Holy Spirit. Laughter, and yet, is what is done, for the intelligence of the light, or if you prefer, the operation of the Holy Spirit. The Christ matrix is the primordial ether is there, the primary abnormality is no longer all takes place on the outside and inside. The progression of enlightenment is the scoreboard. Enjoy progress too, of course. So permit me to allow yourself to quench your thirst or recover during this pause, resonate within you, in the heart of your heart, the vibration of truth and the essence of truth, hidden behind vibration. Reported by Jean-Luc Young. Les Transformations.